In a humiliating U-turn, the UK government has been forced to abandon its plan to abolish the 45% top rate of income tax. It comes after a growing Conservative Party revolt over the policy and turbulent reaction from the markets.
We're absolutely listening to them. I think it's really important, actually, that people who hold office aren't just sticking their heads in the sand, but are listening to the wider conversation. And that's why we've decided not to proceed with the abolition of the rate, the 45p rate. And we're not doing that. And we're listening. And I'm not going to... What I'm focused on now is delivering the growth plan, making sure that the energy intervention works for people, making sure that it works for businesses, making sure that people get to keep more of their hard-earned money.
The so-called mini-budget, which contained the planned abolition of the top rate of tax, triggered a series of problems for the Liz Truss government. In the days after it was revealed, the pound hit a record low against the US dollar before recovering. The Bank of England had to intervene last week with a $73 billion programme to shore up markets. Liz Truss has admitted communication errors in how the economic package was presented. Several Conservative MPs were threatening not to vote for the removal of the top rate of tax. The government insists it is pressing ahead with the rest of the plan.
The average family will be about £430 a year better off, and we're going to get Britain's economy growing, which ultimately will generate more tax revenues to pay for public services, see wages rising, and see the jobs of the future getting created.
No, actually, you might have a desire to do something, and by the way, I share their desire. I want lower taxes across the economy. But I also understand that, first of all, we have to have the economy moving. We have to make sure that we're protecting people from these high energy costs as they're doing, and so much else.
London correspondent Alex Isaac reports now.
The 45p tax turn is a really big deal because a lot of people have been complaining about it, saying that people over £150,000, if they're earning that much, they don't really need these cuts, and these cuts do need to come down not just through the economic trickle, but it actually needs to help the people that are on lower and middle wages too. However, it does seem that the distraction comment is also quite relevant, because they are still borrowing millions, billions of pounds to help the country to try and get through this energy crisis that we are having now and we are going to be having for the foreseeable future. And some of that billions is going towards companies that are already in huge profits just to help us cap our bills. So there is a lot more conversation to be had to exactly why are we still borrowing these billions of money, billions of pounds to give this money to people that potentially don't actually require it. And maybe there's some more austerity cuts are needed, where Liz Truss said that she wouldn't do that when she was in her hustings. So it'd be interesting to see how they go from here. Rishi Sunak said when he talks about the hustings that Liz Truss was flip-flopping, and a lot of people have used that term for her even back then when she was trying to win that leadership contest. So it does seem that many of her policies aren't necessarily hardened and they are going to go forward. I think what is a positive that we've seen is that maybe she is trying to listen, and maybe she does have a good advisor that is going to be able to come over and say, look, actually, these policies aren't going to work in the long term.
Well, let's talk now to market analyst Susanna Streeter, who joins me live. Susanna, what's the market reaction been so far to this move from the government?
Well, certainly in terms of the pound, what we saw is a brief jump in sterling, just as rumours swirled that this was indeed going to happen, that there would be this big U-turn on the 45 pence tax rate. And so you saw the pound jump above $1.12, but then some of that bounce, it retreated from that. I think because this is just yet another political upset for the UK, and certainly the FTSE 100 that's trading lower as well today. So we did see a bounce in the pound, but some of those gains have now been lost, and there is still a lot of uncertainty because, of course, this reversal, this U-turn, it covers around £2 billion worth of tax cuts, and in total the tax cut package is around 45 billion. So there are still lots of unfunded tax cuts still on the table, and that's why you haven't seen UK government borrowing costs, so UK gilt yields fall that dramatically. They've certainly fallen back, but remember as well, the Bank of England is buying gilts and buying these government bonds to try and calm the market. So there's that effect still being felt as well.
And Susanna, in the days since the pound hit that record low against the US dollar, the government, we've heard it from the Prime Minister, we've heard it from the Chancellor and other ministers as well, have been blaming the market turmoil essentially on Vladimir Putin and the war in Ukraine, and insisting it wasn't actually to do with Kwasi Kwarteng's mini budget. How credible a position is that?
Well, certainly, you just got to look at the charts and you can see that sterling plunged after that mini budget was unveiled, and then has recovered since the Bank of England has taken this action. Now, it's taken action, certainly, which has helped lower borrowing costs, government borrowing costs a little bit. But at the same time, the Bank of England has said that it's not going to hesitate in increasing interest rates. And that's why you've seen market expectations for the benchmark interest rate here in the UK to rise to around 5.5%. Now, just a couple of days ago, before this most recent reversal, the expectation was that interest rates could rise up to 6%. So that's lowered a little bit, but it's still high. And that means that it's going to be much more expensive for homeowners to get extra loans to move house. It's likely to affect the housing market, but also corporate bond yields have risen as well. So it's more expensive for companies to borrow on the markets right now. And that will affect investment in the years to come. And of course, the government is all about a growth agenda. But the problem is, due to the falling pound, imports are becoming more expensive and borrowing costs are also higher. So it's going to be very difficult to stimulate growth because of the approach that they've taken.